Welcome to With You Podcast,
where we explore relationships and life transitions.
I'm David.
And I'm Tara.
And we're here to talk about all the places we've seen and the places we've been. I want to do a Dr. Seuss reading.
Oh, no. We could do that. But yeah, that's a lot of places we've been.
We have, and just recently.
Just recently.
Been spring break for Wheaton College, and our typical spring break is we go on kind of a mission trip.
Yeah.
And so we've been with our friends in Central and Eastern Europe training Christian mental health professionals and got to see a lot of people we know and love. And it was a good time.
Yeah. So it's the 11th year. Is that right? 11th year in a row.
It's the 11th year. Yeah.
We've gone to Czech Republic for the mental health conference. And then this year we followed it with a little workshop in Romania.
Yeah, that was, it's always surprising, but we really have fun teaching and doing workshops together.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say we, I have a lot of fun.
It was fun. It was fun. It was really nice people. There were about 80 people or so, I think. I don't know. We'll have to ask how many people showed up. But at a church in Romania, we spoke about conflict and communication and parenting.
Yeah.
And had fun with friends in Romania too.
And it was interesting to see how some things are universal and some of the looks we got were, oh, I think we touched a cultural thing here.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting. Yeah.
And really, I think the first starting spot was the question, and I think we asked this in the States too, is conflict healthy in relationship?
I think that was the big thing that was surprising.
Yeah.
To the participants, because they came thinking that any conflict in marriage is problematic,
right.
Like any conflict.
Yeah.
So
it means you're not in sync and you're doomed, which isn't the case.
Yeah. So it was fun to talk about a different twist on that. And conflict, we said on one of our slides, conflict is a path for connection.
Yeah.
Which also took me many years to realize, because that's not the way I saw conflict either. I'm a classic conflict avoidant.
Yeah. And I try them all on. It's just kind of, let's try avoiding, let's try high conflict. Okay. It's fun to figure out. And maybe not for you, of like,
what are we going to get today?
Which flavor? It's like, it's a box of chocolate conflict. You never know what you're going to get. Well, we're not going to talk about conflict today.
No.
But that was, it was a fun time. So we've been traveling, a little jet lagged. So this will be interesting.
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah, everything's fine. Well, and you just came from a birth. I mean,
just came from a birth. So we just got back from overseas. I knew this was going to happen, but I had a client who got induced, and the baby was born, 2 hours ago?
Yeah, not even.
Not even. Here we are.
And I was like, get home quick. We got to record. So
just a slice of life in the Van Dyke house.
We move from task to task. So, but I think it's moving and staying. I mean, that's kind of here's the segue, right?
Oh, there we go. Okay.
We're moving and staying. And
and
it's the places we find ourselves. Are we satisfied with where we are? How do we think about place? I mean,
and by place, you mean like geographical, physical place.
Yeah.
Right.
State, country, house, kind of the place that you call yours, or apartment, or,
Yeah.
bench.
We thought about talking about this because number one, we've been to a lot of different places, and having done that, we see that place has an effect on people, on the way we're shaped, on the way we identify, on lots of parts of the way we think about ourselves and the way we even think.
Yeah.
And so we just thought we should explore that.
Yeah.
Because we also grew up in different families. So you take us through this.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is, I just taught development this morning, and we were talking about Vygotsky, of how language and culture shape our thought process. A little different than Piaget. And so it got me thinking, how does place shape us? How does it shape our thoughts? How does it shape our way of being? And for me, the thought comes of, I identify, I guess. I don't know if that's a word, but growing up in Western Michigan really shaped me of how I saw the world.
I know. It's one of the first things you told me when I first met you. Like, we just met, And I think we were asking each other like where we came from. And
Yeah.
if people are on video, they can see I'm holding up a hand and pointing to the outside of my palm away from the thumb. And you held up a hand and put your finger there and you said, I'm from here. And I had no idea what you were talking
And
about.
I couldn't believe you had no idea what I was talking
I'd
about.
never seen the Michigan hand. So the
The
state of Michigan
mitten.
is shaped kind of like a mitten. And people in Michigan very much identify with that shape and where they land on it
Yeah.
in their part of the
It
state.
actually shapes us because
Literally.
literally, we show you a shape
Yeah.
on a hand and show where we're from.
Yeah.
And mine, I like to think I'm right at the end of the love line.
Okay.
And that- and
If we were
that's-
to be palm readers.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that growing up there, I had all that I needed, but I didn't know that there was a greater world. So
Yeah.
that we kind of joke about the hand, but I really thought that's how everyone said where they came from
Yeah.
and had
Yeah.
been really in that area. You've joked around. Our family says, if you're not Dutch, you're not much. And it's really, if you're not from Western Michigan. So it's an
Yeah.
American Dutch. But I think it also shaped you and your in all the ways because you speak different languages. You,
Sort of. Yeah. I mean, my identity was more shaped by my lack of identity with place. You know, like you see that even now when people ask me the typical question, where are you from?
Mm-hmm.
I go blank and there's a pause and I have to ask people, do you want the long answer or the short answer?
Yeah.
Because that was kind of my identity, was that I didn't belong anywhere.
Yeah.
Because my parents were from such faraway places and then we lived in other places that they weren't from, you know. So that was part of what shaped who I was, just like I belong everywhere, or I'm trying to figure it out, or you have to hear the whole story to understand where I'm from.
Yeah, where I'm like right here.
Yeah, right, exactly here.
Point on the body
for
part.
generations.
Yeah, for forever. And that identity, I think I saw when we went to Australia and we saw the landscape and smelled things. There was like you transformed of like, oh, this is my place.
Yeah, it was weird. So, I mean, there have been studies done, I think, on that, like people having place sort of in their blood, kind of like feeling physically, viscerally connected
Yeah.
to place. And I never had that because, like we just explained, I was from everywhere. But when we visited Australia, I had no business to feel like that was my home. I'd lived there for a year,
Yeah.
but I didn't have a lot of memories connected with it or belonging. But something about when we were driving from Sydney to Melbourne, I just felt like I belonged there. Like I was in tears feeling like this is my home. Strangely, it was so weird.
Yeah. It was shocking. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is the place. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what do you mean this is the place?
Yeah, it was weird to me too, but it was like there was something super familiar like in my body
Yeah.
with it. Like so strange.
Yeah, like you had body memories, and it's fascinating because I do think it leans into a little bit. I haven't researched this real well, but thinking about epigenetics and kind of the idea of how our biology and environment work together. Well, both of your parents, both sides, even though they come from all over, had ground in Australia, and I believe this, and I think the data will start to show, if it doesn't already, that you're connected to the land.
Well,
I mean,
literally microchimerism. How do you say that? So
I don't
you
know
know
what
that.
that is,
So you know that we existed inside our grandmother's body.
I do know that, but I think
Like,
a lot of people are
it's-
going to be grossed out.
I
by
mean,
that
that
What do you
sounds
mean?
gross. It
do
sounds
you mean?
weird, but each, like a female baby is born or is like developed with their eggs that they have inside them while they're, in utero. So like, okay, so let's think about this. Okay.
I got it. Let me
So
try.
like I existed in my mom's body already when
While
she was in her
utero.
mom's body.
Right.
So theoretically, my genetic material was in Australia.
In your grandparents.
In my grandparents and my
so
mother.
Think about that because we know Peter, Peter Nathaniel's
Oh, yeah.
writes kind of the prenatal prescription of what we eat, the stress level, like the uterine environment is similar to our macro environment that we live in. And so your mom and you are in this uterine environment that's being affected by the land, the food, the air, the stress level of your grandmother,
Yeah.
all creating trajectories.
All before you're born. And then the microchimerism, I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'll have to write that down in the
It'll
show
be
notes.
in the show notes.
Look for that word. But it refers to the fact that our fetal cell, so like fetal cells travel between mother and child. So I have cells from all of our children living in me now, which to me, like, it sounds kind of crazy and like, okay, cells, whatever. But it explains that feeling that mothers have of like, if your child's not happy, you're not happy, or like you can feel what they're feeling, or you just are affected in your body by their sense of well-being.
Yeah. Well, and even the placenta, if we take a DNA swab of a placenta, it's not the mother's body, it's the child's body.
It's a whole separate thing.
It's yeah. It's kind of
We're getting into some weird
tissue.
biology now.
know.
Is this still place?
I think it is place because you cannot separate that level of biology from the environment.
Yeah.
And so the places we find ourselves are part of ourselves, and ourselves are part of that environment. I had the same experience you did when we went to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And we were driving up over Dyke, the dam between
North Sea.
Friesland and the Netherlands, Groningen, and the North Sea, and it's just like, this is my place, and it's like a tuning fork. I think, and you said your body memory.
Yeah.
It felt like, I'm
There's a
resonating
vibration
with the land, and we're not kind of all that
Super like
super
what
connected to
hippy
that.
dippy crunchy.
But it does, there's a sense of connection and how I see the world. When we visited your family in Australia, and when we visited family of yours in Kenya and my family in the Netherlands, there was similarities that even though we've been separated by generations, we still had similarities, both because of the genetic being family and the environment. So anyway, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But the places you find yourself aren't just places that you inhabit and then go away. There's a connection to you that I think is powerful.
At a cellular level.
At a cellular level. And for generations.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to digest that
your
whole
family lived, not even where you lived.
Yeah, you as an egg was living in Australia. It's still a little weird.
I know.
I'm not going to lie.
It's kind of weird.
So hopefully nobody's queasy.
It's not wrong, though.
It's not wrong. And it's interesting. And so then we get to the third piece. So we have this, it shapes us, it gives us identity. And then the third thing that we think about place is it's where we actually are living and have community, meaning making, hopefully flourishing. And it's the people around us. Because I find, the places we find ourselves in, and kind of developmental places. When our kids were little, we found ourselves around playgrounds all the time and sporting events. Yeah. And those people were our community.
Oh, yeah.
That was our friends.
Yeah. Yeah. So we could just like expand out on this in many concentric circles. Like you identify with your very close neighborhood, like your immediate family in your house, wherever you live. And then there's your neighborhood and your community and your town and your state or whatever, and your
nation.
country and your ethnicity. Like all of those things are place things that have an effect on who we think we are and like what shapes the way we believe. It's kind of crazy.
And how you think. I mean, our friends influence our thought process. And so the community we find ourselves in leads to, we're reading the same things, we're discussing. And so we start to see the world the same way. And, but I want to get to a little bit more granular, not like cellular, but to our sense of community. If we went and pointed to every property around our house, could you name all our neighbors?
All of our neighbors?
Or most of our neighbors?
Most of them.
Yeah. Well, there's
and they've changed. We've been here for 25 years, so I could name who lived in those houses, the last 3 people that lived in some of the houses.
Yeah, it was Bert and Ernie.
Bert and Barbara.
Bert and Barbara.
In the
That's
purple
right.
house.
In the purple house. We called it the Barney house.
Yeah.
And Bert and Barbara. And, well, you know your neighbors. That's a resilience. So there's been research done of if you know the name of your neighbors, you're 68% less likely to have a heart attack. And you're
That's a crazy stat.
48% less likely to have a stroke just by knowing their name.
So do you think it's actually causation?
No.
Or correlation?
No, I don't.
With, let's talk about research.
I think it's correlation, but
Yeah.
what that means. So what does it mean knowing your neighbors? Is probably you're out in the neighborhood. There's some form of interaction. There's a level of being known. There's care, possibly. I think there's lots of covariates that are connected with that. But it's that, wow, the space and being connected and a sense of community, regardless of if you're in a house, apartment, living in a van down by a river. If you know your neighbors.
Nice reference.
Thank
Chris
you.
Farley.
Yeah. If you know your neighbors, you're going to be doing life together on some level, and it's good for you.
Yeah.
But I think we tend to always, well, I don't know about you, but I like our house, but I always dream about something different. And I know you like living in Wheaton, but you dream about sunshine
Yeah.
and seas. And
Yeah.
so there's a sense of somewhat dissatisfaction about where we live. And yet this is our place and it's our people.
Yeah.
And I really, we're getting to an age where people are retiring and moving. I have a hard time imagining that. I feel connected to this space
Yeah.
and place.
Yeah. We've put in a lot of time and equity and everything else here.
Yeah.
But I think what you're getting at too is that it's not just where you live, but how connected you are to what's around you that makes it healthy or unhealthy. And we have decided, like, that's kind of one of our go-to methods of survival, not just survival, but thriving is like, okay, wherever you are, even if it's for a short time, like places we visit for a short time, like living 5 months in Hungary or whatever, you develop your people, your community, your friends, your church, your neighborhood grocery store, and be known and be seen.
But I think that you have to be active. So I've been thinking about that. Like when we lived in Aguirre, we got out, we explored, we kind of, even though no one wanted to speak English to us, we we worked on interaction. Like the guy from Macedonia that sold me what's it called?
The walnut ice cream guy?
Yeah. What was the walnut? Dio.
Yeah.
Hungarian, it's Dio ice cream. But at first, he was very skeptical about us. I think he thought we were tourists. But we kept on showing up nightly.
Hopefully not that often.
Not that often, but it got to where he knew us.
And then by the time we left, he was giving you the locals discount.
Yeah, and smiling,
Yeah.
which was like shocking.
Yeah.
But it was repetition over time, and it was intentionality. And I think the same thing with our grocer, although she never really liked me because I couldn't figure out the money.
Anyway.
But that intentionality of where we live and exploring, and we like to do that. Not everybody does. And there was a book on, I forget her name, but it's, I think it was Michelle Warnick wrote a book about place. And she suggested there's 3 types of dwellers in space.
Yeah.
And I thought you and I meet 2 out of the 3.
Okay.
So let's go with yours first.
Okay. So the types of dwellers, should we just list them all and then we can
let's
talk
list
about
all
them?
and we can talk about
And everybody will, I'm sure, will identify with these. So the movers, the stayers, and the stuck.
And the stuck.
And I think some movers think the stairs are all stuck, but there's a difference.
Yeah, and I think the stayers think the movers are afraid to commit.
That might be true, or something. Yeah. So I'm in the movers category, obviously.
You are a mover.
Yeah.
I mean, when we think about your growing up, until our, what was it? It must have been our
So we moved into this house.
2000.
I'd never lived anywhere longer than 4 years.
Yeah, it was 2006, I think, or something around that. You lived 4 years and that was it. And I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, and I couldn't believe that you lived in this town your whole entire life without going anywhere.
I know. Yeah.
I
And
mean, that was scary to me at first to think about just being in the same house my whole life.
yeah, and I was afraid you're going to run away.
Yeah, well, I kind of got the itch every now and then to pack my bags.
It was funny because there's about every 4 years, it's like, why are you packing stuff up?
I don't know. We got to go
"It's gotta
somewhere.
go." Saying goodbye to friends. And it's like, I don't think we're leaving yet. So,
Yeah,
but
it was a
movers,
rhythm.
yeah. And movers are interesting people because they seek excitement, which is you are.
Well, I mean, I think there
adrenaline
can be
freak.
lots of different reasons why people move a lot. Some are not by choice. Some are circumstantial with things that don't work out, or a type of job or military that kind of forces you to keep changing place.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah.
New opportunities come up, or required opportunities.
Required. Like, I don't think that's always a choice for everybody to be moving. But I think some people are just restless by nature,
Yeah.
and want to keep trying new things. And they always have new ideas. And we know people in our town who we've been in the same house the whole time. And we have some friends who've been in, like, I don't know,
Multiple
6-7
homes,
different
yeah.
homes in the same town
Yeah.
for the same amount of time. So I think there is, there are people who just by nature want to keep changing things up.
Yeah.
And there are people who just have to move because that's their
So I was
What?
just thinking, I think my classification of mover for me would be I'd move furniture around in the house.
yes. That's how you change things
That's
up.
how I would find my excitement. Would be like, we're staying in
And
the
that
same
is funny because
house.
we're kind of reversed that way, because I'm a mover of house easily, happy to pack everything up and
state.
go. But when I'm in the house, I want the furniture to stay in the same place, because if I set it up one way, I figure that's the best way.
But you don't know until we try other
Yes,
ways.
you try other ways, and then we all realize it's wrong.
But I just want to try it for a little bit. Yeah.
My mom was that way too. She would just, like, we'd all be at school and work, and she'd be pushing couches around all by herself. We'd come home and it would be all different.
Yeah. It would be bad if she did it in the middle of the night. So then when you wake
Yep,
up in the
ouch.
morning.
Run into stuff.
But I think you're right. There's opportunities that happen. There's requirements that happen, but there is a personality type, and it's hard to distill. Like, you grew up moving around a lot, so it makes
Yeah.
sense that you'd be a mover.
I kind of like change.
Yeah. And that's partly why we've organized our life to travel. So you get a little bit of that,
Yeah.
and we can stay in one house forever.
Oh, I see now. It's all been organized to
That's right.
keep me
I'm going to
like,
keep you happy by let's move around. Let's take
Yeah.
a flight and then come back to our house.
yeah.
That's in the Midwest. For me, I am a stayer, and it comes, like we've talked about earlier, it comes from my family living 200 years in the same village, basically.
Yeah.
And there's something about rootedness that's great. I mean, growing up, it was safe. I knew everybody. We were all in the same town. It was a downside as a teenager because everybody knew everything that we were doing and told mom and dad.
Yeah. I think
So-
that's what some movers are afraid of with staying, is that everybody will know your business.
Yeah. And that's a problem, but there's stability in it.
Yeah.
And there's a sense of being known. Like, if anything goes wrong, the community comes to help, which is lovely. It can feel claustrophobic sometimes. I just didn't know it was,
Yeah. It was just
because it was all
life.
I knew. And so I looked to places of, like, let's set roots deep and long term. And the whole moving, our first year of marriage, our first 10 years of marriage,
Yeah.
we moved about 5 different states.
Yeah.
It killed me.
Did it?
Yeah, because I've always felt unsettled.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we got here, and now we've lived here 26 years, and it's been great. We put roots down. But you can see how couples, if one's a mover and one's I always want to say shaker.
Shaker. I know.
Yeah.
Like, it just goes
Mover
together.
and
Mover and a shaker.
Stayer.
Mover and a stayer.
You can have conflict there in that you have wanderlust, and I am just a simple stay in one place.
No, I mean, I must admit, like after I got used to the idea that we weren't going anywhere
Yeah.
all the time, there's something really reassuring about being in a place where people know you. And like we've been going, a couple restaurants we've been going to for 30 some years, and the owners know us, and you feel, well, I don't know, like everything's familiar. Like home isn't just your house, home is all around you.
Yeah.
So there's something nice about that.
Yeah. I mean, it is weird when the waiter goes, "Where have you been? I haven't seen you in a while." But it's also nice. And
Yeah.
we like that in church. I mean, I like the idea of being known in church, and now we go to a church where people know if we're there or not. And I'm like, I like the idea of being known.
I know you have to have both, right? Like if you're known, you also have to be with the uncomfortable part of they don't just know the things you want people to know about you.
Right.
It's
you can't
like
curate your
you
identity.
can't curate it. It's like when our children lived with us for 5 months, our married children, like
Yeah.
there's no like putting on just a special, show or dinner for our new in-laws. It's just like, here we are.
Oh, yeah.
Here we are in our everyday realness.
Are those kids still married?
Yes,
Oh, good.
thankfully.
So we didn't ruin them. But
Well,
yeah.
as far as we know.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, you see all the good and the bad, and that's intimacy, really.
Yeah.
Is
Which
being
is
fully known.
Which is what is really hard.
It is really hard because
Yeah.
I want you to see the best of me. The parts I don't like, I don't want you to see.
Yeah.
And I think you
Yeah.
feel that way. But healthy connection is all of that and being okay with it.
Yeah. Well, so how are stayers different than the stuck then? What's the hallmark of a stayer? Like, do you think people usually stay by choice, or do you think some stayers kind of wish they were somewhere else, or does that make them stuck?
I think that makes them stuck. I think it's either resources or obligation keep you in a place. So it might be, I don't have the resources to go anywhere else. Whether that's like go from renting to a house or to a different town. And so I would say that's stuck. But the other piece, it might be family expectations or family obligations. There's always these plans, but always something comes up. And I have to stay around to caretake for siblings or parents. But there's a sense of I would be violating family norms to leave. And I felt that a little bit when
Yeah.
when my brother and I were deciding colleges
Yeah.
to go to. We went to one that we felt was so far away, and it was 3-hour drive.
I know. I thought it was so cute when I met you, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm from way far away from here, like a 3-hour drive."
Well, when you say it that way, it sounds crazy. But it was like family expectation. One, not everybody was really into education. And two, it was you stay close. Everybody's connected. And
Yeah.
So by him and I leaving, we were breaking out of the stayer model because we were starting to feel like, well, there's more out there to see. But it's really hard. And I think that's been a hard thing culturally in the U.S. is we've moved from a kind of a stayer nation maybe in the 50s, 60s, 70s to the 80s with the economic boom to now. Everybody moves, like families are all over. Your family covers the whole country.
Yeah, we're coast to coast. Yep.
And but that wasn't the question. The question was stayers versus stuck.
Yeah.
And I think it's family obligations, resources
That make you stuck.
that make you stuck and feel trapped in the place. And it might be just job, right? Like my job is here. So I think I would be open to going somewhere, but I am committed to my institution. I mean, I've put my career here. I've gotten tenure,
Yeah.
which is like a marriage of sorts.
Yeah. I mean, and now that we've been here, raised our family here, have your career here, it's almost impossible for me to imagine how hard it would be to move.
Yeah.
Because it was different when I was a kid too. Your parents picked up and moved and planted you somewhere else. And we did when we were younger, fairly often for a reason like graduate school. And we didn't, have a bunch of stuff to move along with us. When you've been in a house for 25 years and raised a family here, It would
Yeah.
be a bit more monumental to
Right.
dig up our roots.
And our friends are here, our community in terms of faith communities here.
Yeah.
It would feel like a violation. And I don't,
It
I
would
don't,
feel like a violation
yeah, of those
of,
relationships.
okay, but people move.
I know. But this is why I'm a stayer. Because I don't
But
feel,
you're
I
not
mean,
breaking up with friends if you move.
you kind of are. I mean, relationships are based on proximity. Of we have friends that live far away, and we're committed to that.
Yeah.
But it takes work and intentionality, and
Yeah.
it's easier to just be friends with proximity. Like when our kids were in sports, those were our friends, and now we have different friends.
Yeah.
You can, but it takes a lot more work than just proximity. I think the stucks, those that are stuck, I think are either have that kind of external constraint or just internal dissatisfaction of it's really hard. And I see this with kind of folks stuck of like death of a family member, or like if I leave, there's this internal tension.
So stuck might mean that there is some reason they really can't leave, but also that they're unsatisfied with being where they are.
Yeah.
So a stayer often, like, it's a choice. They're pretty satisfied with where they are. They're connected.
Yeah.
There's a reason they're staying, even if they have a choice to
I would say it's
be
intentional.
somewhere else. It's
Yeah.
intentional. Yeah. And there's some people I think who are going to be dissatisfied no matter where they go, which
Yeah.
can be some of them, on this far end of the spectrum of the movers, of people just keep looking for something better somewhere else
Yep.
and never finding that perfect place, which is, I had to tell myself that when I knew we were planting in the Midwest, like there is no perfect place.
Yeah.
Like there's some places that have advantages in different areas, like, you can factor in weather, proximity to family, all sorts of things that are important to you, and none of them are going to tick all the boxes.
Right. And the question is, can you make this place meaningful? Can you kind of respond to this place, be intentional about being in this place? And it can be, plant a garden. It can be get involved in activities,
What else?
build a sense of community.
Yeah.
I mean, do you embrace the place? So we talked about earlier our genetic homes in terms of Netherlands and Australia. But yet we have places that we've committed to for short term, and it's been really great. We lived in Indiana for 10 months, but that was a meaningful place. It wasn't a pretty place, but it was a meaningful place in terms of relationships. And I think you have to look for what is important to you in the place that you find yourself. To really make it meaningful. And Melody Warnick gave some advice on finding flourishing in our current places. Are we done with stuck? Stuck is hard.
Oh yeah, we're totally done with stuck. Yeah, we're over that, over the types of dwellers.
I think there's just one other thing about stuck. And I think it's what we're seeing now is the 20-somethings are a bit stuck. And they're either stuck in that the resources make it harder to buy a home, get out, or they do have a really good job and then they're movers because they're not bound by any sense of community. So we have people working in Chicago that are living in Canada and living in the West Coast.
Yeah.
And so we really have to reclassify what community is and what place is to build a sense of connection, because the old structures in terms of church work with technology now, that's not a place-based thing.
It's very different with people now working from wherever. You're not building your community around your workplace. You're not even physically in the same place with the people you're working with or meeting up with online or whatever. So yeah, it's changing a lot.
It's hard for me. And I don't know if it's just because I'm old, but that sense of,
that's part of it.
hey,
I mean,
I thought you were on my side. I think part of it is that's where you do the relationships. And so the technologically connected relationships aren't the same. I mean, we were just with friends over in Europe, so much better to see them, hug them, be present with
Yeah.
them than talk on a little computer screen.
Yeah.
It's also what I worry about our granddaughter learning about us through a phone.
Yeah. Well, we'll do our best to be in person with her as much as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you think the places we've lived have shaped us? Like,
Ooh, good question.
yeah.
This was not in the show notes. It's changed me.
What's changed you?
The traveling to multiple places, being
Because you were a stayer,
because I
and
was a
now
stayer.
you're a stayer who moves.
I'm a nomadic stayer.
You have your home base, but
Yeah.
you move out a lot from there.
And that's been a big shift because I really wasn't comfortable. Like when we first met, anxiety got the better of me about
Yeah.
moving anywhere.
Yeah.
Everything felt like a threat to me.
Yeah.
If I'm really honest, now looking back, going into Chicago felt like a threat, and moving anywhere.
I know. I remember I drove you across the border in California to Mexico and you didn't even get out of the car.
No, why? Why?
Yeah. I mean, yes.
I mean, the
and now
idea was great.
now you're the one who leads me through these cities in Eastern Europe somewhere.
You're
and
like, is this okay? I'm like, oh, sure, it's fine. Come with me.
no, I don't ask if this is okay. I've just gotten into a weird habit of following you around now. And I'm like, since when did this change where you know your way around, or are you just willing to forge ahead and jump on public transportation and be in neighborhoods you don't know where you are?
And don't know how to communicate with people, but we have a good time.
I mean, I would say
It's
changed a
me.
lot.
Yeah, I've gotten more adventurous, and it's not even adventurous. It's just like, oh, this is people, and I think it's having an understanding of people in place of like, oh, I'm a visitor, or I'm entering into their place, and I'm going to be curious.
And wouldn't you say almost everywhere we've been, people are receptive to relationship? Like they're open, even if at first glance it seems like we're outsiders.
Yeah,
people generally are welcoming and want to help you feel comfortable.
Yeah, if you have a humble and curious stance. The only place I disagree with that, there's one place.
I think what that would be.
See if you can guess. Where my charm does not work.
There's so many choices. I'm just kidding.
The TSA.
Oh, I thought
That's
you were
a
talking
place.
about a country. I couldn't think of a country.
It's like O'Hare.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
That's a place where
any security place where you're trying to be funny. That's not the place.
They don't want to play.
No, that is not the place to be funny. The TSA.
I try so hard.
I know. And it still doesn't go well.
No, they get angry and then they take my stuff.
No, well, you should learn.
But I think other than the TSA in the airports.
Yeah, that's its own culture.
I probably should say I really appreciate the men and women of the TSA for all the work that they do.
Safe.
Keeping us safe as we enter and exit the airport. Because I'm going to get special attention now.
As if you didn't already.
I know. So we have, but I think that's changed me. I think the willingness to just not know and go in, and it's been great. But I still do need my space. And coming back home, it was lovely today in class. A little grumpy this morning. Things didn't go right. Forgot my keys, forgot my coffee, forgot my devotion book. I forgot everything. So luckily I had the lecture in my head. But it started out and the students said, is there going to be a devotion? I'm like, no. And then one of the students goes, Dr. Van Dyke, before you start talking, we would like to pray for you.
Oh, well, that was nice.
They led the devotion.
That was very nice.
And then a couple came up and gave me a hug. And it was like, this is my place.
Yeah.
And it kind of settled down all the chaos. And for me, that was like, oh, yeah, this is what place means. It means when you're dysregulated, they're soothing. There's people that know you, that see you. And I think that's been a big life lesson. How has being a mover kind of to being a stayer kind of changed you?
I mean, I think you've probably observed it, but I do feel rooted in where we live now.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable with it. But you're right. I do need some change. So I'm happy to have our home and our roots here. And I'm happy that our kids have roots
Yeah.
because they can say where they're from. They can come back here and see old friends and old teachers and, feel, I don't know if they love that, but I think I love that for them.
Yeah.
But so I feel comfortable with that, but I also still thrive on having some change, some like foray out into seeing different things and meeting different people and then coming back.
Yeah.
So I like where we've landed, where we're both we're combining our styles. I don't feel stuck.
No.
Because we always have the choice. And we intentionally chose to plant ourselves here.
Yeah.
And we could have gone anywhere at that point in our lives. And even though it didn't meet all the, didn't check all the boxes for me as far as what I would, in my ideal world, choose geographically, it still was a choice. And so if you make a choice, you like, this is so cheesy, but that's, you'd have posters in schools that say bloom where you're planted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's that idea
And
of
there's
like,
usually a cat
you're planted here.
there.
So do you want to just wither and like hate your life and just live inside? And no, like you can build something beautiful around you wherever you are.
Yeah. And I think about that we choose to be here because even on our last trip, our friend Martin gave us a visa to leave and live in the Czech Republic if we need to.
So tempting.
Right. So sweet. It's
So
just like, it
nice.
seems like things are pretty chaotic. You can come and stay here.
Yeah.
So thank you, Martin.
And Monica, thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate
they
that.
really were so sweet to say we were welcome to be with them if things were hard here.
Which is lovely.
They're concerned about us politically.
They are. They're concerned about us in a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways.
We appreciate having family all over the place.
So I think we want to leave you with kind of how do you find flourishing in your current places? And you've been saying that it's a choice. Can I enter in? And I do this with work. Like people are surprised. This is a discipline of mine, but every fall I look through the job postings. I talk to people about jobs, not because I want to have a new job, but I want to feel like I could and there were options so that I can choose to stay and that I'm staying in my job rather than being stuck in my job. Because I think if I felt stuck in my job, it would make me a very bitter, problematic professor where I'm choosing to stay here. I have other options or I'm looking and it's just like, no, this is where I want to be. It frees me up then to be a different person in that same place.
Yeah, because you're not feeling tied down. You're feeling like I chose this. As you said that, it made me think that's such a good analogy for relationship too, right? Because
where are you going with this about our marriage?
Good thing.
Okay.
It's the same idea. You said like I like to know I'm making the choice.
Yeah.
Even though there's always an option to quit your job.
Yep.
And same thing in a marriage.
Yeah,
like I think a lot of people feel stuck in their marriage, and maybe there's some reasons why some of those people genuinely like
to our stuck place ideas.
It's not a good place to be. But in any long-term relationship, there might be a time you feel like, I'm just kind of, tied down, or this is what I chose, so I just got to live with it. I got to survive. But it can be so much better than that if you realize like there's always a choice, but if you choose to stay, why not make it as flourishing as possible?
Yeah.
And choose to be with each other, knowing that no partner is perfect either, just like no place is. And you choose to stay and you choose to build something together.
Yeah, it gives you those things we talk about, shaping you, sense of purpose, sense of identity. So choosing to be there in terms of neighborhood space, what things would be helpful? Well, the statistics tell us get to know your neighbors, like be intentional, talk to people.
Wait, so what's the question?
How do you find flourishing in our current place?
Okay,
And
so how do you find that?
Choosing to be there. That was our
first number
point.
one, make the choice.
Make the choice.
Or acknowledge like I am here.
Yep, I'm gonna
make the best of it.
I planted here. I'm gonna. By golly, I'm going to bloom here. Just spread a bunch of manure and I'll be fine. The second one is get to know the people around you. And that means take action. It's not a passive thing.
No, it's not. And I think a lot of people don't see it that way.
Yeah.
They wait around for people to come to them or to just organically meet people. It doesn't work like that.
No.
As much as that would be lovely. And it's cute when it happens in in rom-coms and stuff, but like
Yeah. But
when we but
really,
really I think it takes more work, and
yeah,
that's hard
it
because it
is.
also means a risk,
Yeah.
like it can be hard to just like chat it up with someone and try to
Yeah. Well,
exchange phone numbers and stuff. Like it can be awkward, but I think most people are open to that. We've met some neighbors who we talk over the fence, we find out they're not really interested in being friends. Fine, we let that go.
yeah. But we know their names and they
But
know our
but we
names.
say
And yeah.
hello and we give each other the mail that gets misdirected to our house, and
Yeah.
maybe bring them cookies every now and then. But there's going to be people like that, and then there's going to be people that turn into great friends.
Yeah. Who's that old lady that lives next door?
My mother.
Oh, that's right. Her name is Miriam. That's right. So
Were you going somewhere with that?
no, that was just just being
We get
silly.
along real well with that neighbor. We
Yeah,
we get together a lot.
I love that mom as a neighbor,
Yes.
and
And that was intentional as
it
well.
was
Very
intentional.
intentional.
And it's so great to be close and be able to do life together. Tomorrow's Thursday. We get to have family meal. It's a fun rhythm, and part of it is we have that with other people too. We have block parties, and it was because you and a couple of other people that you knew in our neighborhood were connected, and so we would block off the streets.
Well, there's a particular person who used to be cornerstone in our neighborhood. Hi, Teresa.
Hi, Teresa.
Who was when we moved in, was the first person that came running across the street with brownies and all the news in the neighborhood. And
Yeah, she was
organized.
intentional.
She was very intentional. And the school bus stop used to meet on her lawn, and all the kids would gather there. And it's nice to have somebody in the neighborhood that's really into connecting everybody.
Yeah.
And I think we're in sort of a different stage of life now without small children, where you don't have as many reasons to get together. But she was definitely an organizer and a planner of events.
Yeah, but we have our neighbors that we play cards with or go for a meal with, or one of our neighbors, Jimmy, makes great homemade pizza. And so, but there's a sense of that's been years and years of developing, and it took intentionality. We told our kids that just bought a house of get to know your neighbors, bring cookies over. Our kids in Louisville that just got a house, their neighbor made extra lasagna and brought some over. And it's those type of things that help you feel connected and realize, oh, someone knows I'm around. They see me. And the next thing, so the third thing that we want you to work on is find something positive about your neighborhood. The sun's not shining. I know you called me from your
I
drive
think
back
that
from the
comes
hospital.
before that should have been number one, because we said choose to be here.
Choose to be
Finding
here.
something positive should have been number one.
See, I choose get to know people and then look for the positive.
Okay.
But you have to kind of get a sense. I mean, we did choose this area because it was close to family. So like where we planted was intentional, and it was a choice. Even though we knew the limitations, we could see the positives of it. And we didn't even know the positives back when we bought this house.
No, we got really fortunate.
It was a good combination. But can you appreciate the space that you have, whether it's a house, apartment? What do you like about it? How do you make it your own?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say too, because you can find something positive, and you can also be part of helping make the positive thing. You know, there's other people we know in our town, our neighborhood, who get really involved with, city planning and politics and creating new retail spaces and restaurants and getting people together. Like there's people that help make it a positive place.
Yeah.
So you can also be part of that. Yeah, but I think it does take that choice to enter in and not just be.
Yeah.
And that
And
can be exhausting.
the last piece of that is investing. So it's appreciating it and then investing. And how do you invest? So like, I know our space, you'd rather have a different house be in a different state. If your heart, all things being equal, but what you do is you put a coat of paint on things, or you plant a tree that's going to blossom in a certain color in the fall. And you've been investing in making this space look pretty and look vibrant, that meets a heart need for all of us. And so there's appreciating this neighborhood, and then there's contributing, investing in it. And I think that's a piece we always look for the best thing without any cost at our part. And I think part of place is investment. It's us putting our blood, sweat, and tears into something that it then feels like it's ours and valuable.
Yeah. Well, that comes from, I always want anybody who steps into my house to feel comfortable and loved and accepted and welcome. And they're not going to feel that way if I'm not at ease.
Yeah.
So I have to first be at ease with my own place and create that space. So I feel that that's what we've created here. You know, people tell me they come in and feel it's not a big house. It's not a fancy house by any stretch. Well, maybe in some countries.
It just depends on context.
But for around here, it's a small house to raise 4 kids in, but I think it feels welcoming.
Yeah.
And we've had big groups in here. We've stretched the capacity of this place.
We've made our studio in our home.
we've done a lot of things in this space. But I think a lot of it is that investment is like a relational investment and a investment in how you feel connected to it more than just making it pretty. Because I like to have, that's not a real plant, but I like to have growing things in my house.
We could have an olive.
Yeah.
Would you like an olive? It's a beautiful.
I tried a real plant in this studio, but it was not happy because we have no light in here. So we had to settle for something fake.
But it looks lovely, even though it's fake.
Greenery is always a good thing to bring life into a place.
Yeah. Well, as you were talking, there was a bit of a cheesy thought of like wherever you are is a satisfying place for me, which is true and yet just a little gushy. But the other thing is what we listed out here of the ways to make a place flourishing, I think is also a way of making a relationship flourishing.
Yeah. That's what we were talking about.
Weird, right? I thought we were just talking about place.
Yeah.
But it goes to our marriages, our dating relationships, our church community. Can we find the positive? Are we willing to invest? Do we appreciate and actually take action? All of these things are vibrant in flourishing, whether it's in a space that we're talking about, a home or a state or a neighborhood
institution.
or an institution.
Yeah.
Or a marriage.
Yeah.
So hopefully this was interesting. It was fun. And we'll be in the same place next week.
This time next week.
We look forward to talking to you then.
See you then.